Hello, everyone. My name is Eleanor Johnson, and welcome to my urban sociology photo project. For this project, I photograph places around Louisville, and try to focus on places that I encounter in my everyday life. Um, I wanted to be able to connect these themes from our textbook to my world around me. Today I am going to walk you through the photos and how these concepts connect together. Okay, so for my methodology, I decided to focus on familiar locations. So this would be Dixie Highway, where I live. And then I also decided to focus a little bit on downtown Louisville because I am downtown quite a bit because it's so close to campus and because there's so much to do. So this helped me further connect the concepts to my everyday life instead of focusing on places that I don't feel a connection to. I also photographed the Kentucky Capitol building. This is because I'll be interning here in the spring semester with the Kentucky LRC. So I wanted to also kind of expand this to a little bit outside of Louisville, but it still connects to me and my life. Um, so I decided to take pictures and then connect concepts. I wish I did it the other way around, but I feel like I still made good connections. Okay, so let's get into my first concept. This is going to be collection consumption. And so for this, I photographed the waterfront park playground and picnic area. So the definition of collective consumption basically means things and services funded for public use. So these are things like parks, um, transit, public spaces, and those types of things. So for this concept, as I said, I chose the playground and waterfront park. This shows this concept because the playgrounds, the picnic tables, the walking paths are all spaces where kids and tourists and families are all kind of brought together um, in kind of one space. There's walkways, there's shared areas, there's public investment, and this kind of shapes how people use the city. Okay, so for my second concept, I chose built environment. This is also from my visit at the waterfront park. So this is basically means that it's a man-made structure that shapes how we interact with a place. So this relates because the overlook at the waterfront park makes the river more accessible. The Ohio River uh, is a natural area, but this kind of turns it more into a public space and kind of shapes the city around the Ohio River. So people can walk and relax and enjoy this nature mixed with man made. So even though the river is natural, it's been enhanced by man made architecture for a more enjoyable experience. My third concept is urban royal continuum. So, this basically describes areas that don't jump from like when you're traveling freely, areas don't just jump from rural to urban. So, cities blend gradually from rural to suburban to urban spaces. So, a good example of this is uh, Dixie Highway and Gene Snyder, right off the exit. Uh, this is because along Dixie Highway, you will find um, open land and some more spread out neighborhoods mixed in with some more suburban areas, mixed in with more residential areas, and it just transitions throughout. And then if you continue to go down Dixie Highway towards Knoxville, or not Knoxville, Fort Knox and E-Town, it continues to change between um, foresty areas and residential areas and more agglomerated areas. And it just really shows how the city can connect different types of spaces. My fourth concept is housing tenure. So this refers to whether people own or rent their homes. And this kind of shapes the stability and identity of a neighborhood. So for this, I chose a neighborhood located in Valley Station. Uh, so this neighborhood built is built up of houses that are owned and that are rented. For the most part, this neighborhood specifically shows consistent houses which are well kept with like well kept yards and neat driveways and neat porches. So this kind of feels more established and more um, just like more established and better, has a better feeling to it. So this kind of reflects that houses in this area are more likely to be owned than rented because they're being taken care of. But this kind of highlights how ownership can change how a neighborhood's atmosphere feels. For my sixth concept, I went with linkages. This is the Second Street Bridge. Linkages are describes connections between different parts of the city. So this bridge connects Kentucky and Indiana. So a lot of people who live in Kentucky or Indiana, New Albany, Louisville, either go over this bridge daily or they've gone over this bridge at some point. It connects commuters and tourists and deliveries and event goers all through this one bridge that links over this body of water. So it shows how a structure can support so many parts of urban life. For my sixth concept, we have entrepreneur. So these are individuals that create and run their own businesses. So for this, I chose Nulu, which, if you don't know, it stands for New Louisville. It's located close to downtown Louisville, and there is a lot of small businesses in this area. It's full of created small businesses and shows how small businesses can bring life and culture back into a neighborhood. This picture specifically shows one shop that I really do like to frequent. It's called Women Owned Wallet, and it's just a women-led business, but they have a lot of really cute stuff, and it's really tailored to women in this area. For my next concept, I have agglomeration. So I mentioned this a little earlier, but this is kind of like just the connection of alike businesses. So for this, I chose a cluster of fast food locations located in Dixie Highway, kind of close to Bethany Avenue. Um, Dixie has multiple clusters of fast food locations. This is just the one I picked because it's closer to where I live. Uh, but in this picture, you'll see Zaxby's, Taco Bell, and Heine Bros. And this is locations that or businesses will tend to choose locations like this because it is got a lot of through traffic. There's close neighborhoods, so people will come out to grab something to eat on their way home from work or just get something for dinner really quick. But businesses can benefit from being in an area like this because um, being so close together to other fast food businesses, they know people will be getting off like this exit because they know there's going to be a lot of food options for them. If there's just like one option off an exit, people are less likely to stop. So these businesses are more likely to benefit when they are closer together. For my eighth concept, I chose capital budget. And the definition of this, in summary, basically means a budget that covers long term investments or projects. So the Capitol building is undergoing major renovations right now. The project timeline is supposed to last 5 years. So everything that's taking place in the Capitol building has transitioned over to the Capitol Annex building. And I'm seeing now that I have something titled wrong on this slide. So I will fix that. But the in summary, this represents capital budget because um, this shows how the government is having to manage future money. They have to budget in for the next 5 years how much this project is expected to take. And yeah, so this is a multi-year renovation that's happening, and it's happening in our Capitol building. So that's very interesting to learn about. So in this picture, this is the Capitol Annex building. So for concept 9, I have built environment and preservation. So this kind of involves protecting historic buildings while allowing them to serve new purposes in everyday life. And so for this picture, I have Whiskey Row represented. All of these buildings have their like original brick facades that are still intact, but inside are more modern purposes like offices and restaurants and some venue locations. It kind of shows how things can have historic beauty and be still represent, back in the day type of things, but still have that meaning, but still be incorporated into everyday life without completely modernizing it. So for my final concept, I have industrial land use. This is a storage facility located off of Greenbelt Highway that I have pictured. Throughout this area, there is a lot of constant truck traffic and like just large industry storage buildings. But this stands out compared to residential areas that we're not so used to, because we're not so used to driving through these areas that it doesn't that we're not like stopping at, and it's just like through traffic. But people don't really think about these areas, but they play a really major role in how the city functions, because without these areas, it would affect our day-to-day life pretty heavily, because things would be imported from so far, and it would just make our lives a lot harder, and we don't realize that whenever we drive through these areas. And so for my conclusion, this concept, I tried to connect these concepts to my everyday life and really how I function in my everyday life. I wanted to be able to better understand these and connecting them to things that are very meaningful to me. Um, it also made me slow down and pay attention to kind of the world around me and think about it in a different way that I normally do. Because normally when I'm driving, down Dixie Highway, I'm thinking of my commute to work and thinking about what I'm going to do when I get to work. And this made me kind of live in the moment a little more and think, oh, well, what's over here that I could take a picture of? And and I kind of discovered new places that I don't notice in my everyday life. Um, Throughout this project, I also had an issue where my car was hit in my driveway. Not in my driveway, but it was sitting like on street parking, and somebody hit it. And so I was having trouble with transportation. So I'm very thankful for my mom specifically, who helped me gather some extra pictures. Um, but I think it's very important that people kind of step back and take notice of how things like sociology can affect their everyday life. And then for my references, I just used the course textbook. thank you guys for watching my presentation, and I hope you all had a great semester.